Moving on and beginning with the chapter, I'll just read out and I'll keep explaining. The thought came to a certain king that he would never fail in his life if he knew the answers to the 3 questions. And those 3 questions were that what is the right time to begin something, which people he should listen to, and what is the most important thing to him to do. So he wanted to know the answer to these 3 questions. The king therefore sent messages throughout his kingdom promising a large sum of money to anyone who would answer these 3 questions. Many wise men came to the king, but all answers to his questions were very different. So that means he wanted to know the answer to his 3 questions, and since he was a king, he sent a message throughout his kingdom that anybody who can give the correct answers, satisfactory answers to all the questions, I would give him a huge sum of money. But then nobody could satisfy the king. The king should notice all that was going on, avoid foolish pleasures, and always do whatever seemed necessary at that time. These are the few answers that those different people gave. Yet others said that the king needed a council of wise men who would help him to act proper at the proper time. This was because one man would find it impossible. So now, different peoples, they have different opinions. So some tell him that, he should avoid foolish pleasures and he should do whatever he wants to because he is the king. But king wanted certain answers that could satisfy him. So everybody came and everybody gave their own opinions. This was because for one man, it is difficult to decide what is correct without help from others. So now somebody said that not even one single person can never decide what is correct. So king should surround himself with lots of people who can always guide him. But the others said that there were some things which could be urgent, and these things could not wait for the decision. In order to decide the right time for something, it is necessary to look into the future. So if you want that by what time I should begin certain action or by what time I should finish certain actions, you should look into the future. And looking into the future is something that only magicians could do. Therefore, the king should have some magicians, or timely he should go and visit some magicians to know that what is going to happen in future. In their answers to their second question, some people say that the most important people with whom the king should always be were his counselors. It is necessary to the king were his counselors. Others said the priest. So some said that counselors are important and some said the priests are important. A few others chose the doctors, and yet others said that the soldiers were the most necessary. To the third question, some said science. Others chose fighting, and yet others religious worship. So they said that okay, this is important, this is important, this is important. As the answers to all the questions were different, the king was not satisfied and gave no reward, because this was the condition that whoever will give the promising answers, the answers which can satisfy the king, only that person will get the reward. And since nobody could satisfy with their answers the king, so nobody got the reward. Instead, he decided to seek the advice of a hermit who was widely known for his wisdom. Wisdom means for his smartness. Somebody who is not foolish is somebody who has the wisdom. Now, the hermit lived in a wood. Wood, again I have told you, they are the forest, because he was a hermit, he was a saint person, so he was living in an isolated area which he never left. He never left means he used to live in that place always. He saw no one but simple people, and so the king put on ordinary clothes. Now, that hermit was such a simple man that he was not interested in visiting any people with pomp and show. So the king decided that I will change, I will turn my appearances into a simple man, and I will go and I'll visit him. Before he reached the hermit's hut, the king left his horse with his bodyguard and went all alone, because a simple person doesn't have bodyguard, he doesn't go on horse, so he left everything that could have made the hermit felt as if he is not an ordinary man. So he left everything and then he started walking alone. As the king came near the hermit's hut, he saw the hermit digging the ground in front of his hut. So what was the hermit doing? He was busy digging a ground. He greeted the king and continued digging, because he saw someone who has come, so he just maybe he must have nodded his head, or maybe he must have given a smile, any gesture which says that okay, you are welcome, and then he continued with his work. The hermit was old and weak, and as he was working, he was breathing heavily. The king went up to the hermit and said, I have come to you, wise hermit, to ask you the answer to 3 questions. How can I learn to do the right thing at the right time? Who are the people I needed most? And what affairs are most important? So the 3 questions the king repeated in front of hermit because he wanted to know the answers, and he told all the 3 questions, and he also requested hermit to help him with the answers. The hermit listened to the king but did not speak. He went on digging. You are tired, said the king. Let me take the spade and work in your place. Now, hermit was a very quiet, a pleasant man. He just listened to all the questions, but he did not say anything, and he kept on working. Thanks, said the hermit, giving the king his spade, because king offered him the help. So that's why hermit gave the spade happily to the king, and then king started digging and he sat on the ground. When the king had dug 2 beds, he stopped and repeated his questions. Again, this time also the hermit gave no answer but stood up, outstretching his hands for the spade, and said, Now you rest and let me do the work. But the king did not give him the spade and continued to dig. 1 hour passed, then another, and so on the day passed on. The sun went down behind the trees, that means it was sunset time, and at last the king stuck the spade into the ground and said, I came to you, the wise man, for answers to my questions. If you can give me no answer, then please tell me, I will return home. And here comes someone running, said the hermit. So this happened. What has happened till now in the story is, the king wanted the answers to his questions. Nobody could give him satisfactory answers. So he went around to a hermit who used to live in wood. He disguised himself. He here means the king disguised himself as a simple man, went to hermit to ask questions. The hermit was digging the ground with the spade. The king asked for the help, and hermit did not answer the questions, and it was sunset. And then hermit said that somebody is coming running. Now what happened? The king turned round and saw a bearded man. A bearded man means somebody who has long beard. That means he was a bearded man towards them. So that man was coming running towards them. His hands were pressed against his stomach because his stomach was hurting. What happens when any body organs hurts? We press it with our hands. So similarly was the gesture of that man who came running, and he pressed his stomach with his hands, from which the blood was flowing. When he reached the king, he fainted and fell to the ground. The king and the hermit removed the man's clothing and found a large wound in his stomach. The king washed and covered it with his handkerchief, but the blood did not stop flowing. They gave him the first aid, but the blood did not stop. The king redressed the wound until at last the bleeding stopped. So he was just, again and again he was removing the cloth, and he was tying a fresh cloth, or maybe washing the cloth and retying it again and again to stop the blood flow. The men felt better and asked for something to drink. The king brought fresh water and gave it to him. Now the man was really thirsty, he was really tired. So the moment he started feeling better, he asked for something to drink. By this time the sun had set and the air was cool. Now it was a pleasant evening, because in woods the environment is so fresh. So the moment the sun set, it was very nice place. It was very cool around. The king, with the hermit's help, carried the wounded man into the hut and laid him on the bed, because it was time for him to rest. That is why both of them, they just took him into the hermit's hut. The man closed his eye and lay quiet. The king, tired by his walk and his work, he also laid on the floor and slept through the night, because it was night time. Everybody was tired. The man who was wounded was not feeling well, and since the king, he was not used to working so much, so he was so tired that the moment he laid down on the ground, he slept. When he awoke, it was several minutes before he could remember where he was and who the strange bearded man who was lying on the bed was. So the king was totally lost. When he woke up, he hardly could remember anything that what has happened. "Forgive me," said the bearded man. Now this is how the conversation started between two of them, and the king, the bearded man who was wounded on his stomach, said to the king that, "Please forgive me," in a weak voice. Why in a weak voice? Because he was not feeling well, he was badly hurt in his stomach, and that is why his voice was really weak. This happens with all of us. If we are not keeping well, our voice is not that energetic, which it is in our usual days. So he just said, "Forgive me," in a very weak voice when he saw that the king was awake. "I do not know you and have nothing to forgive you for," said the king, because king did not know that man. So if, like a stranger, if I come to you and if I say, "Please, I'm sorry, I have done this." So you'll say, "I don't know you, and what are you saying sorry for?" So same was the reaction that the king gave to that bearded man. "You do not know me, but I know you. I am that enemy of yours who swore revenge on you because you put my brother to death and seized my property." So now the man started giving the reasons. He started explaining the reason for his forgiveness. He said that you did something bad to my brother, you put him to death, you also seized means taking something in your control forcefully. It was not your wish, but I have taken something from you and now it's under my control. This is the meaning of seized. So you have seized my property, you put my brother to death, and that is why I was so angry on you that I decided that somehow I will take my revenge. So I'm sorry. I knew you had gone alone to see that hermit, and I made up my mind to kill you on your way home. So that man now completed his story. He moved on. He added that, "I knew that you are alone who is going to hermit, and that was the best time to kill you. So I started following you, but the day passed and you did not return. So I left my hiding place and I came upon your bodyguard, recognized me, and he wounded me. And he said that I was coming to kill you, but your bodyguard recognized me and he tried to kill me. I escaped from him, but I should have died if you would not have dressed my wounds. I wished to kill you and you have saved my life. Now, if I live, I will serve you as your most faithful servant, and I will also order my sons to do the same." Forgive me. The king was very happy to have made peace with his enemy so easily. Now, in return, the king also said, "Please forgive me." And the king was happy because with no good reason, he made someone his enemy, and with no big loss, he just turned that enemy into his friend. And he won him over as a friend. Now that enemy was a friend of the king. He not only forgave him, but he said that he would send his servants and his own doctor to look after him. And he promised to give back the man the property. So he just did all these things because now king realized that I have done something bad to this person. Leaving the wounded man, the king went out of the hut and looked round for the hermit. Before going away, he wished once more to get the answers to his questions. But the hermit was on his knees sowing the seeds in the beds that have been dug the day before. So why he was digging those beds? Because he wanted to grow plants over there. So one day prior he was digging the beds, the second day he was sowing the seeds. The king went up to the hermit and said, "For the last time, I beg you to answer my questions, wise man." Beg you means I request you, because he really wanted the answer to his questions. He was so desperate for them, and that is why very politely he said the hermit that I request you to please answer my questions. "You have already been answered," said the hermit, still bending down to the ground and looking up at the king as he stood before him. "How have I been answered?" Now the hermit said, "Your questions are already answered." But the king was so surprised by hearing this, and he put a cross question in front of hermit and he asked, "How have I been answered? What do you mean? Don't you see?" Now hermit said, "Don't you see? If you would not have pitied my weakness yesterday and have not dug those beds for me, you would have gone away." Now he started retelling him the whole story, that if this would not happen, what would have happened? So you pitied my condition as I was weak, I was fragile, and I was digging the beds. So you pitied me and you stayed there and started digging the beds for me. If you would not have done that way, you would have gone and that man would have killed you. Then that man would have attacked you and you would have wished to stay with me. So if in case you would have returned and that man would have attacked you, what will you do? You would have wished that you should have been with me so that you could be alive. So the most important time was when you were digging the beads. And I was the most important man, and to do me good was your most important business. So now here's all the 3 questions were answered. That the most important task was digging those beds. The most important person was I, because you were with me, and the most important thing to do was to do good to me. Afterwards, when the man ran to us, the most important time was when you were caring for him, because if you would not have dressed his wounds, he would have died without having made peace with you. So when you were with me, doing good with me, doing that thing to me was very important. When you were with that man, taking care of that man was very important to you. So he was the most important man, and what you did for him also was the most important business. Now the hermit said, remember that there is only one time that is most important, and that time is now. With this, the hermit wanted the king to understand that whatever you are doing right now is the most important thing. So right now, if you are listening to this chapter, the most important thing for you is to pay attention and concentration over here. You can't keep thinking of this that 10 minutes before what I have done, and once I get over with this chapter, what will I do? Because right now you are sitting here, you are listening to this, so you should pay attention to this. Similarly, the hermit said that there is only one time that is important, and that time is now. It's the most important time because it's the only time we have any power to act. The most important person is the person you are with at a particular moment. For no one knows what will happen in the future and whether we will meet anyone else. So if right now I am standing with someone, I am talking to someone, so for me that person is the most important person, because I don't know if I will ever meet this person in future or not. So most important time is now, most important person is the person with whom you are presently, and the most important business is to do that person good, because we are sent into this world for that purpose alone. So this is how he answered all the questions, that it is the most important time, what is the present in which you are. The most important person is the person with whom you are, and the most important business is to do good to that person with whom you are. So like that man did good to the hermit by helping him in digging the beds, the most important business was to help him. The most important person was that person with whom that king was, and the most important thing to do is to good to that person. So this is how those 3 questions were answered. Now, this is a simple story in which Leo Tolstoy has made us understand that this question may have happened, or this situation happens with all of us. At times we don't know what do we have to do, whether this person is important for us or not. So next time, whatever you are doing, pay attention to that, and with whoever you are, that person is the best person you can be with, and to do good to that person is the best thing you can do. Remember all these 3 questions whenever you are in a fix, and the answers and the situations which we have discussed. Thank you.